Mark Twain is often remembered as a kind and fatherly figure in American letters, the chronicler of frog-jumping contests and rafting trips down the Mississippi. But that gent with the halo of white hair and the twinkling eyes was also a piercing and sometimes vinegary old critic of the American scene. His story, The Man That Corrupted Hadleyburg, written in 1899, when Twain was 64 years old, is about an almost ordinary little town in mid-America just before the turn of the century. It was quite an era. Across the Atlantic, Queen Victoria was in the 63rd year of her reign, and America was surging along on the crest of the Industrial Revolution. Pride in empire and enterprise had bred a complacency and assumption that man was on the true and good path. Twain, with his background in journalism, was just the sort to remind us there are always a few thorns in the prettiest of gardens. In actual fact, he'd become quite angry at the robber barons and the widespread commercial greed, hiding behind neighborly smiles and comforting slogans. So he created a town called Hadleyburg. Not a bad place, really. Maybe a little smug, a bit self-righteous, a little too proud of its incorruptibility. But then Twain had something special in mind for Hadleyburg. The story begins near the town hall. There's music coming from the band shell. Up on the hill above the town is the mysterious stranger. He's the man to watch.
Hadleyberg, lovely town. Of course, they're not like us. Time was they were said to be the most honest, upright town in all the region. Virtue personified. The young folk learned from the cradle up to be honest in their dealings with the world. The town kept that reputation pure for 3 generations. Nothing made them so proud. Of course, that pride had its drawbacks. For one thing, Hadleyberg looked down on strangers. And in one case, the town offended a passing stranger. That was the first time I'd been in Hadleyberg. Now, I was a bitter man, vengeful. And the second time I entered Hadleyberg, I had a plan which would change everything. You lost? No, I've been here before.
us have been here all our lives and are lost.
I'm looking for the house of Edward and Mary Richards.
You're going right. Straight ahead.
The cashier at the bank.
He's the one.
I see by your outfit you're a clergyman. Aren't you the Reverend Burgess?
I wish it glowed in my face rather than my clothes.
I believe it does. Good day. Thank you for the directions. Of course, I was too polite to say so. But sermons had always been my least favorite literature. I'd heard the Reverend Burgesses were comforting. Real easy to sleep under.
Who in the world are you, sir, and what have you got there?
Good day, Mary. May I come in?
I suppose you may.
What? Mary, who's this?
A stranger with a heavy sack.
Stranger with a heavy sack of what?
Gold.
Gold. I'll believe it when I see it.
May I set it down somewhere? It's rather heavy.
How much does it weigh?
There.
You tell me how much it weighs, I'll tell you how much it's worth.
I see you received the world's work.
We receive it. We don't always read it. Hard to keep up with everything these days.
99 pounds and 4 ounces.
Why, that'd be about $40,000. There aren't 10 men in Hadleyburg worth that much.
I want to leave that sack in your care.
Why us?
Forever?
No. Just till you find the rightful owner.
How are we supposed to do that?
He's a citizen of Hadleyberg.
What's his name?
We know most everybody in Hadleyburg.
He did me a great kindness some time ago. I was a stranger passing through town.
Well, we're always kind to strangers.
I was a gambler.
We ourselves do not gamble.
May I smoke my cigar?
We ourselves do not smoke.
I arrived in this town one day, hungry and without a penny. Begging was all that was left for me to do. I waited until dark. Luckily, I begged off the right man.
Who was it?
How much did he give you?
He gave me life. He also gave me fortune. For out of the $20 he gave me, I have made myself rich.
Nobody gives anybody $20.
Barclay Goodson might have given someone $20.
But that scoundrel, he's dead. He can't use this now.
And he left no one behind.
I don't see how we can find this man that gave you the money.
I want to have him found. I want him to have this money. To give away, throw away, or keep, as he pleases. Advertise for him.
Well, where would we begin?
Advertise in the censor. The man who gave me the $20 may be identified by a certain remark he made to me.
I'd like to hear what a man says when he gives away $20.
When a man gives away a great deal of money, he feels entitled to give away free advice as well. The remark he made to me is sealed inside that sack. Advertise. The man who gave me the money knows what he said. Let him write it down and seal it in an envelope and give it to the Reverend Burgess. Open it up at the next town meeting. And that way my benefactor will be identified.
To have all this to give away.
Or throw away. Or keep.
As he pleases. Well, I'll be on my way. Good day. Good day.
Good day, Mr. Stranger.
Mr. Stranger. Good enough.
99 pounds.
And 4 ounces.
Why, it's a romance. It's like The impossible things one reads about in books and never sees in real life.
Right. Not likely such a thing would have come their way. Hadleyberg had undergone an everlasting training in honesty, protected against every theoretical temptation. Of course, that made it an artificial honesty, weak as water when real temptation came.
It's dreadful to be poor. Always on the grind, always on a salary, always another man's slave while he's sitting at home in his slippers, rich and comfortable.
I have in mind to buy you new slippers. Poor Edward. But be comforted.
About what? This big old house always needs fixing?
We have our livelihood. We have our good name.
And that's everything. Well, still, don't mind my talk. Pay no attention to me. Kiss me. There, it's all gone away now. I'm not complaining anymore.
When I think of all the things in life I might have had that I never had.
Gotta be getting down to the newspaper before it's too late. Now, think what a noise it'll make. Now, all the towns round about will be jealous. For no stranger would trust such a thing to any town but Hadleyburg, and they know it.
Must we advertise today?
Must we advertise at all?
We must. Perhaps we made a mistake. Seems such a shame to advertise so quickly, without even thinking things over a bit. People should always think things over more than they do.
Evening. I've got a good thing for you, Cox.
I wish you'd had it yesterday.
No, this is not your ordinary announcement.
It's a little late for this week.
This is not 2 pigs and 6 hens for sale.
We're about to go to press.
This is $40,000 for some fortunate citizen of Hadleyburg.
You might have something there, Mr. Richards.
I believe I do, Mr. Cox. I believe 99 pounds and 4 ounces of gold.
Never mind the ounces. Get on with it.
Somebody in Hadleyburg is going to receive $40,000 return on a $20 investment. Ooh. Well, that's what we don't know.
Let's find out.
How do we find out who's supposed to receive this money? And when?
It's all sealed in an envelope in a sack.
Where's the sack?
Who wrote the envelope?
And who put it there?
I told you I had a good thing for you.
When can we see the envelope that's in this sack?
When the Reverend Burgess opens it.
By whose authority is he appointed to open it?
Well, by the authority of the man who brought it.
All this money goes to the man who invested $20 in what?
Somebody gave $20 to a man passing through at a time of need.
For which the man who received the money was extremely grateful.
I'll say grateful. 200,000% grateful.
Well, he was poor. The man who gave him the $20 made a certain remark to him.
Which was what?
That's what we don't know.
Oh, that's what's sealed inside the envelope, in amongst the gold.
I'm beginning to get the picture.
I already got it. I wish this had come yesterday instead of today, and we could have given it some thought. How come he took the sack of gold to you, Mr. Richards? Well, he took it to you and nobody else. Do you mean you and Mary are the only people who know about this?
Mary and me and you and you.
You and Mary and him and me and him.
It wasn't 4 times a year that the Associated Press man furnished very much that anybody cared about beyond Hadleyburg. But tonight was different. His dispatch stating what he had caught got an instant answer. Send whole thing, all details, 1,200 words.
What's the matter with you, Edward?
Well, I did the right thing.
You might have shared this little thing.
Now it's out. It's gone all over the cockeyed world. I could scream.
I could die. Next time, think quicker.
Next time, we'll all think quicker.
Next time, be hanged. There won't be a next time in 1,000 years.
Hadleyberg woke up world celebrated. Astonished, happy, vain beyond imagination.
Why, this thing adds a new word to the dictionary. Hadleyburg, synonymous for incorruptible. A word that will live in dictionaries forever. And this town's reputation for honesty, our example, will now be spread far and wide, clear across America, and be epoch-making in the matter of moral regeneration.
What is the exact weight of the sack?
The sack weighs 99 pounds, 4 ounces.
And who are you, sir?
I'm Otis Pinkerton. I'm the president of this bank. Everybody knows that.
Well, not everybody in North America don't know that, Mr. Pinkerton. You, sir, do you have any idea who gave the beggar $20 and what the remark was that he made when he gave it?
Well, if I knew what the remark was, the first thing I would do would be to pay off my mortgage to this bank this very day. My name is Robert J. Titmarsh, spelled exactly as it sounds.
And you are the very beautiful Mrs.?
His wife. I don't care so much for the mortgage. I'd rather have something to wear.
You, sir. I'd go out west to California. Everything's perfect there.
I'd give it all to charitable causes.
Beginning with himself. How do you do? I'm Wilson, attorney at law. I put it to you, sir, begging your indulgence. Consider this point, and consider it well. If you should ever, I don't know why you should, but if you should ever have need of an attorney's service, I hope...
What
sir,
remark do you think was made to the stranger, and by whom?
Well, I couldn't say. I mean, I wouldn't say privileges of the profession, if you know what I mean. I ask you, consider this point, and weigh it well. If you were to...
Edward, maybe you should have waited.
Maybe I should have stopped to think. But no, I had to run straight to the censor and spread it all over the world.
Of course, he said we had to advertise.
I was thinking what a stir it would make.
Why couldn't we have let ourselves be overcome by it? Instead, you ran to the newspaper.
Well, I suppose I did. But we must remember it was so ordered.
Ordered? Everything's ordered.
Mary, what if you and I could guess what the remark was that Barclay Goodson made to the stranger?
That night. That dark night. Edward, doesn't it seem odd to you that he should appoint Reverend Burgess to cluck over all these arrangements? Nobody loves him.
Burgess isn't a bad man. He just spoke out once too often, that's all.
All? He lost his church for it. Just sits whittling all day. He'd have been rid out of town on a rail if somebody hadn't gone to him and warned him.
It was I that went to him and warned him.
You, Edward? Why didn't you ever tell me?
Oh, I never told a soul.
I should hope not. If the town had found out. That money has to go somewhere. To someone who needs it. Edward, could you have given $20 to a stranger? And just don't offhand, remember?
No, of course not. Well, let's get to bed.
And sleep?
Probably not. Probably just stir, fret, worry, and think. Think!
I'm thinking as quick as I can.
What would a man say, giving $20 to a beggar on a dark night?
Everything that glitters is not gold.
Now, don't be a fool. Why would he say that? Oh, what I wouldn't do with $40,000. I'd crow over certain people in this town, believe you me.
I believe you.
I'd buy a new printing press.
We could take a trip to Paris, friends.
What for? What's the matter with the United States? My country, right or wrong? That's what he'd say.
Why would he say my country, right or wrong, to a beggar down an alley on a dark night? I mean, why?
Oh, never mind why. Here I am. You're a beggar in a dark alley. I give you $20. Now, what do I say to you?
A fool and his money are soon parted. Huh?
Evil to him who evil does?
The love of money is the root of all evil.
I'll say it is.
Things had quieted down by the end of the week. The wild exhilaration of pride and joy had sobered to a sweet, silent delight. And then another change came. The postman brought a letter. Oh, correction, please. The postman brought 19 letters. Or put it this way. The postman brought one letter 19 times. I am a stranger to you, but no matter. I have something to tell. I have just learned about that episode. Of course, you do not know who made that remark, but I know, and I am the only person living who does know. It was Barclay Goodson.
I guessed as much.
I overheard him make that remark to the stranger in the dark. It was in Hale Alley. He and I talked of it the rest of the way home and while smoking in his house. He mentioned many of your fellow citizens, and you, I think he said you, had done him a very great service once, possibly without knowing the full value of it. If it was you that did him that service, then you are his legitimate heir and entitled to the sack of gold.
Thank you.
I am going to reveal the remark to you, well satisfied that if you are not the right man, you will seek and find the right one.
Of course I will.
This is the remark.
This is the remark Barclay Goodson made. You are far from being a bad man. Go and reform.
Lead us not into temptation. Who would be hurt by it? You'd be free of Pinkerton and his bank and nobody's slave anymore. Oh, Edward, how lucky it was you did that grand service for Barclay Goodson. And it was fine and beautiful of you never to mention it or brag about it.
I suppose I didn't realize at the time it was such a grand service.
Now stop hemming and hawing and tell me about it.
Oh, it was nothing.
It was certainly not nothing. It must have been something. It must have been a very big something to fetch a bag of gold.
I can't tell you. You see, he made me promise that I wouldn't.
You're not very convincing.
Reverend Burgess.
Yes.
Do you believe it was Barclay Goodson who gave $20 to the stranger?
Could have been.
What do you suppose he said?
He might have said something I sometimes heard him say. Someday, for your sins, you will die and go to hell or Hadleyberg. Try and make it the former.
You saved Barclay Goodson's soul.
Well, that would make a man inordinately grateful.
That must be it. Is it coming back to you?
Yes. Yes, it's drifting into the realm of my memory now. I remember I went to him and paid him a visit. It was a brief visit.
In one brief visit, you altered his soul?
No, he told me to go to blazes and mind my own business. He wasn't hankering to follow Hadleyberg to heaven.
You saved his life.
Well, possibly so. You know, Mary, I wouldn't lie to you.
Reviving memory is not lying, Edward.
Well, he was drowning.
The day was hot.
Yes.
It was summer.
Yes, I swam out to him and tugged him ashore. There was a great crowd of people looking on and applauding.
In that case, the whole town would remember the circumstance.
Yes. And a whole swarm of further disqualifying details come to mind.
Such as what?
Well, for one thing, Mary, I can't swim.
What's all this about 19ers?
19 leading families.
Ah, that's logical enough.
Hadleyberg is a logical town.
Who elects these 19?
They're not elected, they're appointed.
By whom?
By themselves. I told you it was a logical town.
You're a 19er?
No, I'm not. It's hard to say how a person qualifies. Money, birth. Now there's a lawyer, Wilson, and Deacon Bilson. They're 19ers. I can't say why. The Richards, of course. There's 19 of the Titmarshes. Mrs. Titmarsh is said to be our most beautiful woman. But I don't know how you measure that either.
Why were you appointed guardian to receive the envelope with the secret remark?
I have no idea. I'm mystified.
Does it have to do with your church?
I'm sorry to say I have no congregation at present.
I see. Why?
Because at a certain moment in the past, I offended Hadleyberg.
How'd you do that?
Easily.
This letter, he says you performed him a great service.
He was accused of doing a bad thing. I went to him, more or less privately.
By the back streets?
Yes, I went to him and gave him notice. The town was about to write him out on a rail. Well, he got out of town. Oh, I was scared. I repented. I didn't sleep that night for worry.
You didn't do that for Barclay Goodson. You did that for the Reverend Burgess.
We've brought you this.
Ah, yes, an envelope. The world has been full of envelopes lately.
Don't you want it? It's the remark that was made to me. No. No, it's the remark that I made to the stranger.
Our salvation is in that envelope.
But we aren't really sure what service I performed.
I know what service you performed.
In the end, of course, the Reverend Burgess found that he had 19 envelopes. And a lot of people in Hadleyburg had a lot of dreams about how they were going to spend $40,000.
My fellow citizens, unaccustomed as I am to speaking, for I'm editor, not speaker. Oh. Even so, still in all, I accept your congratulations.
Providence has focused the eyes of the American world on this, our Hadleyberg, and upon me. Humbly, modestly, I accept your love, your attention, your applause.
Who is to be the guardian of this noble treasure? Our responsibility is individual, not communal. From this day forth, each and every one of you is,
Why are we listening to him?
Person.
He's got the money.
Its special guardian. Today, your purity is beyond reproach. Today, there is not a person in our community who could be beguiled to touch a penny not his own. Will it remain so? Do you? Does each of you accept this great trust? Then all is well.
All would even be better if he'd stop his jaw.
Speed it up.
I have this envelope.
Whose envelope?
Read off the name.
I actually have several envelopes. We'll know shortly which remark in which envelope corresponds to the remark sealed in this sack. Here is the first. The remark which I made to the distressed stranger was this: you are very far from being a bad man. Go and reform.
Signed by who?
This message is signed by Mr. Bilson.
Bilson? Oh, come on!
$20 to a stranger from Bilson?
$20 to anybody from Bilson.
Why do you rise, Mr. Wilson?
Because my name was called.
He called Wilson, not Wilson.
Wilson is a name. Bilson is a sound. I put it to you, sir. Asking your indulgence, I charge you with theft. You pilfered my envelope to the Reverend Burgess and signed your name to it. I decline to share the money with Deacon Bilson. I ask you to consider this point.
Both Mr. Wilson and Mr. Bilson did give me envelopes.
Oh, my Lord, Edward, and so did we.
We did a bad thing, Mary.
Mr. Bilson stole it from me. I'm sorry to say what I'm about to say, since it must inflict irreparable injury upon Mr. Bilson, whom I have esteemed and respected until now, and in whose invulnerability to temptation I have entirely believed, as did you all until now.
It's a lie, an infamous lie.
Read it out! I do not think we should read any further letters.
This one has been contributed by Mr. Pinkerton. The remark which I made to the unhappy stranger was this: you are far from being a bad man. Go and reform.
Mr. Chairman, could these three men have said the same words to the same stranger in the same darkness of the same night?
The remark that I made, and so on and so forth, you are far from being a bad man, signed by Mr. Gregory Yates.
Hooray for Yates! Fish again!
Mr. Chairman, these men have been eavesdropping in each other's beds and filching family secrets. All I don't know or understand is which one of these nighttime prowlers is entitled to wear the belt as being the most dishonest blatherskite ever brought in this town.
You are far from being a bad man.
You are far from being a bad man. You are far from being a bad man. You are far from being a bad man. You are far.
Oh, Edward, we're about to be exposed.
You are far from being a bad man. Go and go on.
Signature, Eliphalet Weeks.
Bilson, Wilson, Pinkerton, Yates, and Weeks. 5 elected. Pile up the symbols. Go on, go on. Chairman. I count only 18 envelopes.
Then that's how many there were.
But there are 19 19ers. Who did we leave
like
out?
all the rest.
Oh, we are so very poor. We're getting old.
Cox,
With no one to
Titmarsh,
help us.
Sergeant.
My friends, I hope you'll let me say a word.
I know you're going to ask us to exercise charity toward these offenders.
No, not exactly that.
We know your good heart, Edward.
Mary and I feel that we're as guilty as all the rest.
I see the generous purpose in your face. I find that I have read all the envelopes.
Bless God, we're saved.
I propose that Mr. Richard be made sole guardian of the sack, to keep it safely banked, to use it wisely for purposes of charity, to account for it regularly at stated times. Well, let a lawyer write this all down.
Lawyer Wilson. Maybe he'll write it up with one hand and steal it with the other.
Open the sack! Open the sack! Open the sack! Open the sack! Cheers for Richard! Cheers for Richard!
Friends, they're only gilded discs of lead.
I propose cheers for the cleanest man in town. The one important family who didn't try to steal the money. Hooray for Edward and Mary.
Isn't that amazing? There's always someone willing to lend a helping hand. Things are different now. In Hadleyburg, I mean. For one thing, it isn't called Hadleyburg anymore. By act of legislation, they're allowed to change its name. I'm not going to tell you what it is. They changed the town motto, too. Yes, sir, quite a difference. It's an honest town again. A man would have to rise early to catch him napping now.